You won't believe what just happened to Martel Holt. After years of betrayal, lies, and playing the victim, it seems like karma has finally caught up with him. Let's just say Melody Sherry is getting the last laugh. From losing business deals to public humiliation, Martel's downfall has been nothing short of brutal. But here's the real shocker. His recent actions have left fans speechless, and it might just be the biggest regret of his life. So, what exactly did he do, and how is Melody proving that revenge is best served cold? Stay with me because this story is about to get wild. Martel Holt, a name that once carried power and influence in the reality TV world, is now synonymous with scandal, deception, and downfall. Once a successful businessman and reality star, Martel had it all: fame, fortune, and a beautiful family with Melody Sherry. But behind the scenes, things weren't as perfect as they seemed. Years of infidelity and reckless decisions tore his life apart, and now the consequences are finally hitting him where it hurts the most. From a nasty divorce battle with Melody to failed business ventures and public humiliation, Martel's life has taken a dramatic turn for the worse. Fans are witnessing what some are calling the ultimate karma moment, unfolding right before our eyes. But here's where it gets even crazier. Martel's latest moves have backfired spectacularly, leaving him scrambling to pick up the pieces. Meanwhile, Melody is thriving, winning, and making sure the world sees it. So how did Martel go from a successful entrepreneur to a man struggling to maintain his reputation? More importantly, what role has Melody played in this unexpected twist of fate? Buckle up, because this is a story you don't want to miss. Let's dive in. To truly grasp the weight of Martel Holt's fall, we need to go back to the days when he seemed to have it all. Martel first gained widespread recognition as one of the stars of OWN's hit reality show Love and Marriage, Huntsville. The show, which followed the lives of three power couples navigating love, business, and friendships, quickly became a fan favorite. Martel and Melody Holt were one of the most admired couples on the show. They presented the perfect image, a successful black couple building generational wealth together. They weren't just reality TV stars, they were business moguls. Their company, Holt and Holt Custom Homes, was thriving, and they were viewed as an inspiration. People admired their ambition, drive, and seemingly unshakable partnership. Melody was the epitome of grace, intelligence, and strength, while Martel appeared to be the charming, ambitious businessman making all the right moves. But as we've seen time and time again in Hollywood and the entertainment industry, things are rarely as perfect as they seem. Behind the scenes, cracks were beginning to form in Martel and Melody's seemingly picture-perfect marriage. And these cracks weren't just minor disagreements or typical marriage struggles. They were deep, irreversible betrayals that would ultimately lead to Martel's downfall. Here's where things take a shocking turn. While the world saw Martel as a loving husband and father, he was hiding a secret that would soon destroy everything he had worked for. But what exactly was the secret, and how did it all come crashing down so fast? Stay with me, because what comes next is where the real drama begins. If there's one thing we've learned from watching public figures rise to fame, it's that secrets never stay hidden for long. In Martel Holt's case, the truth behind his seemingly perfect marriage was about to be exposed in the most humiliating way possible. Let's talk about the betrayal that changed everything. For years, Martel had been living what many would call a double life. While the cameras rolled and he presented himself as a devoted husband and father, he was hiding a dark secret, an extramarital affair that would ultimately ruin his marriage and tarnish his reputation. At first, whispers of infidelity were just rumors. Fans of Love and Marriage, Huntsville speculated, but without solid proof, it remained just that, speculation. However, as time went on, more and more evidence began to surface. Then it happened. The truth exploded, and there was no way Martel could hide anymore. The scandal became public when it was revealed that Martel had been in a long-term affair. Martel Holt had been in a relationship with another woman for over 5 years. Yes, you heard that right, 5 years. This wasn't some random fling or one-time mistake. It was a full-blown secret relationship that had been going on behind Melody's back for years. And if that wasn't bad enough, here's where things got even more shocking. the other woman was pregnant. That's right. After years of lies and deception, it was revealed that Martel had fathered a child outside of his marriage, confirming what many had suspected all along. The moment this news hit the public, it sent shockwaves through the entertainment world. Fans were outraged, social media erupted, and, most importantly, Melody Sherry had finally had enough. Imagine building a life, a family, and a business with someone, only to find out that they had been leading a completely separate life behind your back. Imagine the betrayal, the humiliation, the heartbreak. And here's where it gets even worse. Instead of taking full accountability for his actions, Martel tried to play the victim. In multiple interviews and confrontations, he attempted to downplay his infidelity, making excuses and even shifting some of the blame onto Melody herself. But let's be clear, Melody was not the problem. She had been a devoted wife, a loving mother, and an equal business partner, standing by Martel's side as they built their empire together. But Martel threw it all away for his selfish desires. As you can probably guess, this wasn't something Melody was going to tolerate. She made a decision that would change the course of her life, and Martel's forever. She walked away, but here's where things take an unexpected turn. Melody's decision to leave didn't just mark the end of their marriage. It marked the beginning of Martel Holt's downfall. His world was about to collapse around him, and karma was coming for him fast. When Melody Sherry walked away from Martel, she wasn't just leaving a toxic marriage, she was reclaiming her power. Let's be real, a lot of women in Melody's position would have crumbled under the weight of public humiliation, a failed marriage, a cheating scandal that played out in front of millions, and a husband who refused to take responsibility. That's enough to break even the strongest person. But Melody did the opposite. Instead of letting the betrayal define her, she used it as fuel. She turned her pain into purpose and made sure her next move would be her best move. And trust me when I say she did not come to play. First, Melody secured her financial future without Martel. Let's not forget, before the drama, Melody and Martel were business partners. They built their brand together, working side by side to create success. But when the scandal broke, things took a turn. Melody knew one thing for sure. She was never going to let Martel control her destiny again. So, what did she do? She bossed up. Melody expanded her brand, launching new business ventures that had nothing to do with Martel. She made strategic moves that allowed her to build wealth on her own terms. She walked away from their joint business and created her own empire. She focused on her music career, dropping songs that resonated with fans who had been through similar heartbreaks. Melody used her platform to inspire other women, showing them that life doesn't end after betrayal. It begins. And let's not forget, while Melody was out here securing her future, Martel was struggling. This brings us to the next point, Martel Holt's downfall. Karma came knocking while Melody was glowing up. Martel was spiraling. Remember, Martel thought he had it all figured out. He had a successful business, a reality TV career, and the confidence of a man who believed he could get away with anything. But here's the thing about karma. It always comes when you least expect it. After Melody left, everything started falling apart for Martel. His business took a major hit. Without Melody, his brand lost credibility and opportunities began drying up. His finances took a nosedive, divorce isn't cheap, and Martel found himself struggling to maintain the lifestyle he once had. His reputation was in the gutter. Fans turned against him, calling him out for his behavior, and his public image never fully recovered. The worst part? His arrogance only made things worse. Instead of taking the L and working on himself, Martel continued to make poor decisions. He got into public fights, said reckless things in interviews, and doubled down on the same behavior that ruined his marriage in the first place. While he was drowning in bad decisions, Melody was thriving. Now, let's take a moment to appreciate how far Melody has come. She's financially independent. She doesn't need Martel for anything, and she made sure of that. She's happier than ever, free from the toxicity, living life on her own terms, and looking better than ever. She's inspiring thousands of women through her success, her music, and her journey. Melody is showing others that you can bounce back from betrayal. The best part? Martel knows he lost the best thing he ever had. There's nothing more painful than watching someone you took for granted win without you, and that's exactly what Melody is doing. But here's where it gets even better, because Melody's story isn't just about surviving, it's about thriving. What happened next proved that she was always destined to come out on top. When Martel Holt stepped out on Melody, he thought he was in control. He believed that no matter what happened, he'd always come out on top. But life had a different plan. While Melody was rising from the ashes, rebuilding her life, and securing her future, Martel was sinking fast. His downfall wasn't just a random stroke of bad luck. It was the direct result of his own actions. And let me tell you, when karma came for him, it didn't knock gently. It kicked the door wide open. First, his business collapsed. Martel's empire crumbled as he struggled to maintain the success he once enjoyed. His brand lost all credibility, and opportunities that once seemed endless evaporated in the blink of an eye. Before the scandal, Martel and Melody were a power couple in business. Together, they had built a successful real estate company, Holt & Holt Custom Homes. They had money, influence, and a brand that was respected. But the second Melody walked away, everything started to fall apart. You see, what Martel didn't realize was that Melody was the real brains behind the operation. She handled the deals, the marketing, the relationships. She was the glue that kept everything together. Without her, it wasn't long before cracks started to show. Clients lost trust in Martel. His public scandal made people hesitant to do business with him. Nobody wanted to work with a man who had destroyed his marriage so publicly. Financial struggles hit hard. With Melody gone, business deals became harder to close, and money stopped flowing the way it used to. His real estate business took a major hit. Without the credibility that came from being part of a power couple, Martel's ability to secure big projects began to fade. And let's not forget, divorce is expensive. Martel went from living a comfortable life with his wife and kids to struggling to maintain the lifestyle he once had. At first, he tried to play it off. He acted like everything was fine, putting on a brave face and pretending that losing Melody wasn't a big deal. But behind the scenes, Martel was drowning, and this was only the beginning. Public humiliation. Martel faces the consequences if there's one thing Martel never expected. It was the intense backlash from the public. He thought he could cheat, lie, and disrespect his wife without facing any real consequences, but the internet never forgets. The moment news broke about his affair, social media exploded. Fans of love and marriage, Huntsville turned against him overnight. He went from being one of the most admired men on the show to the most hated. And it didn't stop there. Memes flooded the internet, mocking Martel for his reckless decisions. People dragged him in the comments every time he tried to justify himself. Fans called him out for blaming Melody instead of taking accountability. And what did Martel do? He made it worse. Instead of owning up to his mistakes and apologizing, he doubled down. He tried to paint himself as the victim, claiming that Melody wasn't the woman he thought she was. He went on interviews, making excuses and throwing shade at Melody. Instead of moving on, he kept fueling the fire. Every time he did, the backlash grew worse. Martel didn't realize that people weren't just mad about the cheating. They were angry because he refused to take responsibility. He didn't just betray Melody, he embarrassed her. He humiliated her in front of the world and then expected people to feel sorry for him. But the world wasn't having it. The child support struggle. Martel's financial nightmare. While Martel was busy fighting battles online, his real problems were just beginning, namely, child support. One of the biggest consequences of his actions came in a way he never expected: child support. When Martel and Melody split, they had 4 children. Together, this meant child support payments were coming, whether Martel liked it or not. At first, he thought he could handle it, but remember, his business was already struggling. With fewer deals coming in and money drying up, those monthly payments started to hurt. As the financial stress began to pile up, it became clear that Martel was in trouble. Rumors started swirling that he was behind on payments, and people noticed he wasn't living as lavishly as he used to. The more his money problems grew, the more desperate he became. Martel started lashing out at Melody, claiming she was making things harder for him. He wanted joint custody, not because he was truly fighting for his kids, but because he wanted to avoid paying more child support. It was a sad sight to see. A man who once had it all: wealth, fame, a beautiful wife, and a successful business, now struggling just to keep up. And the worst part? It was all his fault. The reality TV downfall. Losing his last chance, Martel thought love and marriage, Huntsville, would always be his safety net. No matter what happened in his personal life, he believed the show would keep him relevant. But here's the problem. Reality TV can make you or break you, and for Martel, it was breaking him. The show had once been a platform for him to showcase his success, but after the scandal, it became a constant reminder of his mistakes. Every season, the drama with Melody played out for millions to see. With each episode, his reputation got worse. Fans didn't see him as a businessman anymore. They didn't see him as a loving father. They saw him as the arrogant, selfish man who lost everything. As Melody continued to shine, winning over fans, growing her brand, and proving that she could thrive without him, Martel's relevance began to fade. Producers weren't as interested in his storyline anymore. Fans weren't rooting for him to redeem himself. And without a strong personal brand, his future in reality TV became uncertain. He had gone from the man everyone admired to the man everyone pitied. At this point, it seemed like Martel Holt had lost everything. His marriage was over, his business was failing, and his public image had taken a brutal hit. Most men in his position would have tried to lay low, rebuild in silence, and maybe, just maybe, find a way to redeem themselves. But Martel? He had other plans. Instead of stepping back, reflecting, and making a comeback the right way, he chose a path that no one saw coming. A path that would either be his last hope for redemption or the final nail in his coffin. And trust me, this part of the story gets even crazier. A new romance. Martel's attempt at a fresh start after everything that had happened. You would think Martel would take time to heal, to focus on himself, his children, and his career. But no, not long after his split from Melody, Martel did something that left fans completely shocked. He entered a new relationship, and it wasn't just with anybody. Martel started dating a well-known celebrity, Sherry Whitfield from The Real Housewives of Atlanta. The moment their relationship went public, social media exploded. People had questions. Was this real? Was it a PR stunt? Fans were taken aback by his sudden romance, especially given the circumstances surrounding his previous marriage. Was Martel really trying to use Sherry to stay relevant? Because let's be honest, the timing was suspicious. His career was struggling, his name was losing value, and his business ventures weren't hitting the way they used to. Suddenly, he pops up with a high-profile relationship. It felt like a desperate move, a way to stay in the headlines without actually fixing his life. But let me tell you, the drama that followed was even worse than people expected. The relationship backlash. Why fans weren't buying it at first, Martel and Sherry tried to paint the picture of a happy, loving couple. They went on vacations, did interviews, and posted pictures together. But the internet wasn't convinced. People questioned Martel's intentions. Was he really in love? Or was he just using Sherry to boost his image? Sherry's fans were worried. They had seen how Martel treated Melody, and they didn't want her to go through the same pain. The age gap became a topic of discussion. Sherry was older, more established, and had been in the reality TV game for years. Meanwhile, Martel was a man trying to recover from scandal. Then, as expected, the cracks began to show. Rumors started circulating that Martel wasn't faithful, that he was still involved with his longtime mistress, and that he was playing both sides, not fully committed to Sherry. And just like that, history repeated itself. Martel found himself in the middle of a messy public scandal once again. But this time, it wasn't just about cheating, it was about his entire reputation. If he was using Sherry for fame and not being faithful, then what did that say about him as a man? And what did it say about his future? Because, let's be real, he couldn't afford another public failure, the custody battle. Martel's fight against Melody, as if his personal life wasn't already chaotic enough. Martel made another decision that shocked everyone. He decided to take Melody to court for full custody of their children. Now, let's pause right here. Why would a man struggling with his business, finances, and personal life suddenly decide to fight for full custody? Many believed this wasn't about the kids, it was about control. Martel had already lost Melody as his wife, but now he wanted to make her suffer as a mother. He wanted to show the world that, despite everything that had happened, he still had power, that he could still make Melody's life difficult. But here's the problem. He wasn't prepared for what happened next. Melody wasn't about to back down. She came to court with receipts, exposing Martel's financial struggles and painting a very different picture than the one he had tried to portray. Reckless behavior and the fact that he was only doing this out of spite ultimately backfired on Martel. When the judge saw the situation for what it was, Martel didn't get what he wanted. Instead of taking control, he ended up looking even worse. Not only was he a man who lost his wife, but he was also a man who tried to weaponize his children and still lost the battle. It was another public embarrassment, and at this point, it seemed like Martel was running out of options. The desperation, Martel's final attempts to stay relevant with his reputation in shambles, his business struggling, and his personal life a mess. Martel was running out of time. He knew he couldn't just disappear. He had to find a way to stay in the spotlight. So what did he do? He started chasing every opportunity possible. He tried new business ventures, but none of them took off as he had hoped. He did interviews, but instead of taking accountability, he kept making excuses. He even hinted at writing a book, but fans weren't buying it. At the end of the day, people didn't want to hear Martel's side anymore. They had watched him throw away his marriage and embarrass himself over and over again. No matter what he did, he couldn't escape his past. The damage was done, and at this point, only one question remained. Could Martel Holt ever truly make a comeback, or was his time in the spotlight finally coming to an end? The harsh reality. What's next for Martel Holt? There comes a time in every person's life when they must face the truth, and for Martel Holt, that time was now. The world had watched him rise, fall, and desperately try to climb back up. But no matter what he did, his biggest enemy was always himself. He had the talent to be successful. He had the looks and charm to win people over. He had the opportunity to build an empire with Melody, but he threw it all away. Now, he was a man fighting to hold on to the little bit of relevance he had left. Let's be honest, his story wasn't about redemption anymore. It was about a man who let his ego destroy everything he worked for. Unless he made some serious changes, his downfall would be permanent. The question remains, will Martel Holt ever wake up and fix his life? Or is this the end of the road for him? Only time will tell. But one thing is for sure, his story serves as a warning. When you take love, success, and opportunity for granted, you don't just lose them. You lose yourself.